The disappearing road.
Samantha was driving through a lonely rural stretch late at night when she spotted a flickering gas station. She pulled in, seeking directions. The place looked abandoned, peeling paint, broken signs, and a tired attendant with hollow eyes. As she approached, he warned softly, "You won't find your way back." Confused, she asked for directions, but as she left, she looked back at the station. It seemed to flicker and vanish for a moment, replaced by an endless forest. The road behind her stretched on infinitely, looping back on itself. Her GPS flickered out, and static crackled through her radio. Disoriented, she felt an inexplicable unease. The station reappeared briefly in her mirrors, then disappeared again. Shadows seemed to whisper from the woods, and the road twisted unnaturally. Her engine stalled, and when she stepped out, the landscape shifted. She was in a foggy, unfamiliar place, an endless dirt road with dark trees pressing in. She heard faint whispers calling her name, growing louder and more insistent. Panicking, she tried to turn back, but her car wouldn't start. The shadows drew closer, and she felt a cold dread seep into her bones. Suddenly, everything went black. She woke in her car, parked on a normal road, the station gone. But her GPS still showed the location, the same lonely station from before. The flickering light flashed in her rearview mirror as she drove away, an echo of a nightmare she couldn't escape, forever etched into her mind. The Midnight Stranger. Daniel stopped at a deserted gas station at midnight, seeking the restroom. The station was eerily silent, with flickering neon lights and a strange sense of stillness. The attendant, a gaunt man with sunken eyes, greeted him softly. "Need help?" Daniel nodded, feeling a prickling of unease. Inside the restroom, the darkness was oppressive, silent except for the faint sounds of crying from outside. When Daniel stepped out, he saw a figure, a shadowy, cloaked person, standing in the rain, crying silently. The figure looked up, eyes hollow and staring directly at him. He called out, but the figure vanished. Outside, the rain intensified, and the figure reappeared, beckoning him with an outstretched hand. The attendant's voice crackled over the radio. "Some people don't leave once they come here." Fear gripped Daniel as he realized the figure was trying to lure him into the darkness. He ran back to his car, fumbling with the keys, but the engine refused to start. The rain and shadows swirled around him as the figure moved closer, whispering, "Stay with us." Morning found Daniel waking up in his bed, soaked and trembling. His car was gone, and outside his window he saw the silhouette of the figure in the rain, staring at him. The whispers echoed in his mind.
His reflection in the mirror now smiled unnaturally, eyes dark and vacant. Something from that gas station had taken root in him, waiting silently, always watching. The littered shell. Michael arrived at a neglected gas station on a stormy evening, noticing trash strewn around the pumps and the place looking abandoned. The old attendant, gaunt and hollow-eyed, muttered, "That's been here a long time," when Michael examined a torn photograph of a smiling family, scratched and faded. As he inspected it, a chill ran down his spine. Suddenly, faint giggles echoed from the shadows. On the ground, he found a broken doll with a cracked face. He pocketed it, but the shadows flickered and danced around him, growing darker and more menacing. The station's flickering lights cast monstrous shapes on the walls, and a shadowy figure appeared behind him, tall, featureless, silent. Shadows stretched and writhed, closing in. Panicked, Michael tried to escape, but his truck wouldn't start. The shadows pressed closer, whispering, "Come play," as a faint, icy wind swept through. Finally, he managed to start his truck and sped away, glancing in the rearview mirror. The figure was gone, but strange handprints marred the glass, symbols etched into the surface. The next morning, he found the doll back on his porch, its face smiling eerily, eyes scratched out. The photograph had disappeared. Strange symbols appeared in the dirt around his house. Whatever haunted that station had followed him, silent and waiting for its next victim.
The cold chain.
Lisa pulled into a remote gas station during a fierce snowstorm, seeking shelter. The wind howled as she stepped out, noticing the attendant, pale with icy eyes, whispering, "The chains are missing." She looked down to see her tires bare of chains despite the snow. The attendant pointed silently at the snow-covered landscape where a tall white figure stood motionless, draped in a long coat, eyes vacant. The snow swirling unnaturally around her, Lisa felt a sudden oppressive cold. Whispers carried on the wind. "Come with me." The figure began to glide over the snow toward her. Her vehicle's engine sputtered, refusing to start, trapping her in the frozen night. She tried to run, but felt icy fingers grip her shoulders. Darkness seeped into her vision. When she finally escaped, her car was gone, and icy footprints led into the woods, deliberate, slow, unnatural. The storm subsided, but she continued wandering, lost in the chaos. The next morning, she awoke in her bed, the snowstorm raging outside. Her car was missing, and strange, glowing footprints led from her house into the woods. The white figure haunted her dreams, waiting silently for her to join it forever.
The Flickering Lights. Tom, a long-haul trucker, stopped at a gas station with flickering neon lights, eager for a quick rest. The station's atmosphere was unsettling. Shadows flickered unpredictably, and the place was eerily silent. The attendant, a gaunt man with vacant eyes, greeted him with a hollow stare. Inside, the flickering lights cast monstrous shapes on the walls. When Tom stepped outside to stretch, the lights suddenly burst into total darkness, revealing a faceless figure with glowing eyes lurking in the shadows. Tom tried to start his truck, but it sputtered and stalled. The whispering chorus echoed, "You're already ours." The figure moved closer, silent, menacing, and shadows stretched and writhed around him. He fled into the darkness, but the station's lights flickered back on, revealing the figure's face, pale, featureless, smiling eerily. His truck's radio emitted a faint lullaby, lulling him into helplessness. In the morning, the station was deserted. Tom's truck was gone, and his belongings scattered. The neon sign flickered ghostly, whispers lingering in the air. Weeks later, his truck was found abandoned in a forest, strange symbols etched into the door, and the haunting lullaby still playing faintly from the radio. The entity's influence persisted, waiting for the next victim. The shadowed reflection. Emma pulled into a quiet gas station on her late-night drive, the place flickering with dying bulbs and an unnatural silence. Behind the counter, a man with deep-set eyes greeted her softly, warning, "You're not alone here." As she filled her tank, she glanced into the cracked, foggy mirror behind him. Her reflection stared back, but suddenly she saw a shadowy figure behind her, eyes hollow, face obscured. She spun around, but the station was empty. When she looked back into the mirror, her face had distorted, emotionless. The shadow figure pressed closer, whispering in an inaudible language. Her heart hammered as icy coldness seeped into her bones. She rushed to start her car, but the engine stalled. The shadows grew darker, shifting unnaturally at the edge of her vision. The reflection in the mirror began to bleed ink-black tears, her face twisting into a mask of terror. The mirror shatters all at once,
plunging her into darkness. She awoke outside her car, trembling. The station was gone. Only broken shards of the mirror remained. Yet in her rearview mirror, her reflections smiled eerily, eyes dark and vacant. Days later, she finds a message scrawled on the shards. "We see you." Her reflection remains forever altered. The last customer. James arrived at a forsaken gas station just before midnight, driven by exhaustion. The place looked abandoned, rusted pumps, broken signage, shadows under every corner. An old attendant, gaunt and trembling, approached him whispering, "You're the last one." James shrugged, dismissing it. As he filled his tank, he noticed a strange symbol carved into the pump, a dark mark that seemed to pulse faintly. The attendant's voice warned softly, "Don't stay too long. They're coming." Suddenly, the station's lights flickered and dimmed, casting monstrous silhouettes on the walls. Shadows danced unpredictably, and whispers echoed from nowhere. "They're already here." James tried to leave, but his car refused to start. The shadows grew closer, their whispers turning into screams. The tall, unnaturally featureless figure emerged from the dark, its presence oppressive and cold. It reached out with elongated limbs, whispering, "Stay with us forever." Desperately, James fought to escape, stumbling into his car as the shadows enveloped him. The engine finally roared to life, and he sped away, glancing in the rearview mirror. The station and the figure had vanished, but on his hand he noticed a faint black mark, the symbol from the pump etched into his skin. Over the following days, the mark spread and glowed faintly. He began to see shadowy figures lurking at the edges of his vision, whispers echoing in his mind. "You belong to us now." The unseen passenger. Carlos stopped at a remote gas station amid a thunderstorm, seeking refuge. The station looked abandoned with broken windows and a flickering sign. The attendant, pale and hollow-eyed, whispered, "They ride with you." As Carlos filled his tank, he felt a presence, an unseen passenger, sitting beside him in the vehicle. He dismissed it as fatigue, but the whispers grew louder, calling his name. Suddenly, the radio crackled with static, and faint whispers filled the air, growing insistent. His engine sputtered and stalled, trapping him in the storm. Shadows flickered at the edge of his vision, and he sensed icy fingers gripping his shoulders. The presence became tangible, icy, oppressive. Desperate, he tried to start his car, but it refused. The whispers turned into screams, and the unseen passenger's presence pressed against him, cold and dark. He fought to escape, but the shadows enveloped him, pulling him into an abyss. Morning found him miles away, shaken. Glancing back, he saw faint handprints on the back seat, as if someone or something had been riding with him. Later, he found a strange, cold object on his dashboard, a black pebble with strange symbols etched into it. From then on, fleeting shadows haunted his peripheral vision, whispers whispering that the unseen passenger. The Final Fillup. Rachel stopped at an old, forgotten gas station during a fierce storm, seeking shelter from the rain. The place was dim, with peeling paint and a broken canopy. The attendant, gaunt and haunted, whispered, "This is the last stop." As she fueled her car, she heard a faint giggle echoing from the shadows. She looked down to find a dusty, cracked toy lying on the ground. The toy's face was scratched, and it seemed to smile unnaturally. She pocketed it, feeling an icy chill. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out, plunging everything into darkness. In the darkness, she felt a presence, something watching her, whispering her name in a childlike voice. The toy moved on its own, rolling toward her, its face smiling disturbingly. Shadows gathered, forming vague humanoid shapes that seemed to crawl from the ground. Her heart pounding, She fumbled to start her car, but it stalled. The shadows stretched toward her, reaching with elongated limbs, whispering, "Stay forever." The shadows enveloped her as she screamed, pulling her into a void. When morning arrived, the station was silent again. Her car was gone, and only the broken pump remained. The toy was found on her doorstep, smiling eerily. Days later, her reflection in the mirror showed her eyes hollow and dark. Boy's voice echoed faintly in her mind. "You're ours now." Shadows flickered in her home, waiting, watching, forever bound to the station's sinister legacy.